What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Weekend Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. On this week's show, we break down some of the latest news and gossip going around in the XFL world. So how do you get in touch with the show? It's simple. You email podcast@xflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos, or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. And speaking of review, let's get into one right now. This review is from Paul M. Jackson 9. It says, great show. Mark is very knowledgeable and connected to the XFL community. He works hard and the show is entertaining. Go Tampa Bay Vipers, giving us a 5-star review. Thank you, Paul M., for leaving us that 5-star review. We appreciate that so much. And everybody out there, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. Then that gets the show elevated. More and more people hear about it and join our community of superfan XFL people, men and women. All right, so without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. Monday, September 14th, begins the Garcia-Johnson Redbird capital regime officially, sort of. So although the sale of Alpha Aquico is over and everything has been finalized, there still needs to be a transfer of ownership from all the legal stuff that's going on into basically the books of Alpha Aquico. So on this past week, there was a motion entered and a transition agreement, so to speak, between the Alpha Entertainment LLC and Alpha OPCO. So Alpha OPCO is a subsidiary of Alpha Aquico. And they've entered into a partnership to basically now shift all of the money things and including some staff now in the hands of Alpha Aquico. So essentially now Alpha Entertainment is out. They have nothing to do with anything. And what this means is, as of the date of September 14th, everything is theirs. The staff, services, property, technology, contracts, leases that have been assumed and assigned all become property of Alpha Aquico. So right now it was kind of this like transition area, and that means that this is now all under Alpha Aquico. So the transition agreement only allows for certain services to be rendered by the new owners that is necessary for Vince McMahon to finish the bankruptcy process. Those services must be paid for by the seller. So without this agreement being part of the Chapter 11 bankruptcies, the seller could continue to drag their feet, holding on to certain resources and employees while finishing up the process, thus delaying any progress that could be made. So to make it easier, Vince's connection with the XFL is now completely severed as of September 14th. Anything he needs to have done by his former staff or resources he used to have, he has to pay for. And that starts with the actual $50,000 retainer. The case within the court is still not finished. Paperwork is still being filed to this day. There was a recent adding of the United Healthcare contract, was ordered to be assigned by the new owners. There's been lease agreements, practice facility agreements, storage agreements. All these things are kind of happening behind the scenes, and you're wondering why, hey, why isn't the XFL doing anything big? Why haven't we heard anything? Because they've actually been doing a lot of stuff. It seems like things have been dead, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes as far as Alpha Aquico and Alpha Entertainment, restarting leases, agreements. Does these restarted agreements mean that everything is official? No, we don't necessarily know, but this is how you take it from this bankruptcy and restarting everything out now. So the first employees are actually starting XFL employees. Since the time the league shut down, there are a handful of XFL employees starting on Monday, September 14th. So now, for the first time in months and months and months, there are actual XFL employees getting paid. Now, whether this expands over the next several months, we'll just have to stay tuned and find out. But the idea is that finally, now there's actual, again, XFL employees is another step in the right direction to relaunch the XFL, hopefully in 2021. Our own Jay Noakes threw this interesting tidbit out there. Who could be the next commissioner of the XFL? So the deal's done. We know the whole deal between Danny Garcia, The Rock, and Alpha Entertainment, Alpha Aquico. We've heard no new updates since August 21st, and we've been expecting something new and quickly, and we haven't got anything. But under the new ownership, they're taking the proper steps to get to sustainability, to longevity of the league, recreate the momentum it gained prior to suspending operations in April, due, of course, to everything we know that's going on. And this takes time and patience, and we all need to be patient, but we don't want to be patient. Remember, Vince McMahon first announced the launch of the XFL in 2018, and his first line of business was selecting a commissioner. And once that happens, kind of all the pieces begin to fall in place. So assuming that the league will do the same thing, here are a few candidates Jay Noakes thought should be on that list. First up, Jeffrey Pollock. He has experience in his own right. He held the role of vice president of marketing for the World Series of Poker and was later promoted to commissioner in 2006. As the commissioner, he negotiated partnerships with brands like ESPN and Sirius Radio, making World Series of Poker the number one brand in poker. Pollock also has experience working in the NFL, where he held roles as special advisor to the president of the then San Diego Chargers, Dean Spanos, in which he consulted the team in revenue growth and plans for the Chargers' future stadium in Carson. So this would be a solid direction for the league, with Pollock being part of the XFL 2.0 and remained in his position with the league throughout the entire bankruptcy process. It seems he has a great relationship with the new owners. Pollock would be an ideal fit, potentially going back to his president's role. Commissioner role, he does have the football background, but he was never a former player that could play into that. So if you want somebody who's a former player, then look no further than Doug Whaley. Has almost 20 years of football experience. He's a general manager of the Buffalo Bills from 2013 to 2017. He worked for the Steelers, Seahawks, and the director of college recruiting for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. He was the senior vice president of football operations with the XFL. The former XFL commissioner trusted him with hiring top-level personnel and head coaches for all the 8 teams and evaluating players. Oliver Luck also called him his right-hand man for everything football and has a high regard for his football acumen and experience as a general manager in the NFL. Since he was heavily involved with establishing the personnel and evaluating the players, he, in my opinion, could be the top choice of the XFL commissioner role. Other guys to think about, Bill Polian is known for his historical experience in the NFL. He's general manager of the 90 to 94 Buffalo Bills that won the AFC Championship 4 times and took 4 trips to the Super Bowl, although without coming out victorious on any of those. He was also the general manager of the Carolina Panthers from 95 to 97, contributed to producing a team that reached the NFC Championship in its second year of existence. I remember that. His recent accomplishments including drafting Peyton Manning as general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, who won a Super Bowl championship during his tenure as well. So the guy's got acumen. But most recently was the co-founder of the Alliance of American Football, which folded after 8 weeks of play in the spring of 2018. Even though his other spring football endeavors didn't work out, that doesn't mean Polian wouldn't bring something valuable to the table. During his time with the AAF, he recruited Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu to be a part of the league and also supported the league. Not only could Polian bring his football knowledge and experience in evaluating players, but he could help the league continue to gain the attention of people in NFL circles. So he would be one. Also, John McKay Jr., if the XFL went in this direction, could be considered. McKay was part of the first XFL and held the role as general manager of the LA Extreme, was also a part of the now defunct AAF, like Polian, the Alliance of American Football. Not becoming successful is nowhere close to being the fault of his own. McKay Jr. is a football guy. He was a player at USC and had a stint in the NFL. His dad was the head coach at USC from 1960 to 1975, where he compiled a career record of 127, 40, and 8. His brother, Rich McKay, is currently the president of the Atlanta Falcons and former general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Prior to McKay's tenure with the AAF, he held positions as Senior Associate Athletic Director at USC in 2010. Given his experience with the AAF and football knowledge, McKay Jr. could be an external candidate worth taking a look at. But so we don't know. We do know that Oliver Luck is not coming back. And it'll be interesting to see who would fill his role. Could it be Jeffrey Pollock? Could it be Doug Whaley? Bill Polian, John McKay Jr., or some other person that we have no idea about? And hey, The Rock and Danny Garcia being the owners of the XFL, we didn't know anything about that. So who knows who could be the next commissioner of the XFL? Everybody's excited in the land. The NFL football is back. And while watching Thursday night's football game, there was a mention of The Rock, which then in turn mentioned the XFL. So late in NBC's coverage of Thursday Night Football, cameras were panning the crowd for famous cutouts when they spotted Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's placed next to the Queen of England in Arrowhead Stadium, after which Michaels made a reference to the recent purchase of the XFL made by Johnson.
Queen and The Rock.
They formed a friendship.
Yes, they have. Rock getting involved in football, the XFL.
Until Thursday night, the last major professional football league to play a game was the XFL, and that was back in March when the LA Wildcats welcomed the Tampa Bay Vipers to Southern California. And no one at the time could have seen that that would have been it for professional football. And then we had, of course, COVID-19 come. Then we had the bankruptcy, which led to the purchase by The Rock, Danny Garcia, Jerry Cardinal of Redbird Capital, and so on. The next time professional football would be live would be 6 months later, in front of cardboard cutouts. But Twitter blew up after that was mentioned, and it was great. And this is the reason why having The Rock involved with the XFL, because as soon as you mention The Rock's name, the XFL seems to come up afterwards, and that is great for the XFL. What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, let's check out our social media stuff this week. First up, if you were watching the NFL games, the XFL was 0 for 4 in players on the field on Sunday. All 4 former XFL players were on their team's inactive list. That was P.J. Walker, Colin Thompson of Carolina Panthers, and Storm Norton and Donald Parham of the L.A. Chargers. We were really hoping that there was a shot for Storm Norton to potentially play because the guy that he was backing up possibly would have been injured. Instead, all the XFL guys were on practice or on inactives this list, so that was too bad. Eric says, good, keep them healthy and they can come back and play in a real league. Dang. Dennis says, there will be other changes. So, yeah, I have a feeling that things will shift around and these guys will definitely potentially get a shot at some point down. But I was just hoping. I was hoping to put that tweet out and say, hey, one of our XFL guys is on the field active this week. About who could be the next commissioner of the XFL, Bradley says, Mock Foley. He is a great commissioner. I think you're talking about wrestling. Why don't they bring back Oliver Luck? We've talked about that before. A mutual decision. Both sides are basically like, okay, we're just moving on from each other. I think Luck might have other plans with college football, perhaps. Who knows? Javier says, hey, he's don't want to come back. He wants in the college football. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Leon says, bring back Oliver Luck. Danny, someone that loves their country enough to keep politics off the field. I'm all for having a voice, but do it in interviews or social media fields for football. The XFL can be very big, very fast. If they do this, again, bringing that whole politics thing in, it's just the sign of the times right now. That doesn't mean you can't watch and enjoy the sports. There's both sides to this story. I'll just leave it at that. On the YouTube channel, YouTuber says looking forward to 3.0. I hope they don't get woke. We've covered that a billion times. Hundred says watch out, Michaels get fined by the NFL because of this. That's mentioning the XFL. Our XFL Tier 1 quarterback Jack Stevens likes all this stuff. And then for math, a bunch of numbers, go Vipers. Talking about the official start that there's actually XFL employees as of today. On to Twitter. Check out Mike Mitchell's article. A lot of people have been talking about that, about his breakdown of the positives and negatives that things can potentially go down. Lots of funny stuff on Twitter for you to check out. There's just so many tweets, and they go in and out of all different kinds of subjects. But there you have it there. Walt Mosley, when he was talking about some filings and stuff, he says, I, for one, am tired of business filings for bankruptcy, leaving others to clean up their mess. It's just, it's not just like they bought it and it's ready to turn on the lights and we're ready to go. There's a lot of other parts that need to get restarted up, and that's kind of what you're seeing right now. And that's why we haven't heard anything yet. You can't make, now that they have employees, now that things are, I mean, they're employees, they could be temporary, we don't know. Things will, I think, will start to pick up over the next couple weeks. My biggest fear, and I think for you guys too, is are we going to be able to get a season in? I mean, we're now talking mid-September. Can we turn things back on to get a draft in October? I mean, I think we could if we needed to. And guys are out there and they have their picks and whatever. We'll see what happens. On to the Instagram. Talking about our XFL 0 for 4 with players. KS Life in Motion said kind of stinks, but I think some of these will see the field as the season progresses. I totally agree with that. Damn, Low Keith, whatever, Wyatt. That'll change. C Mansfield 7815. Sign me up. Midnight_auto_Inc. Okay. Are you planning on playing in the league? All right, let's get to some emails real quick. Let's see. Hey, Mark, it's Jamal, another Tier 1 emailer, says, why do you say, quote, and then use close quote? Why not say it another way? That gets annoying. Actually, I do it because it helps me edit the things together, actually. Quote, Mark Perry, close quote. It's early speculation, but I could see the XFL doing SJW stuff and people turning away because of that. I think that's, I don't know what that is. Oh, why not put an audio disclaimer at the start of your podcast saying you're not associated with the XFL? I know you have it on your site, but people don't read sometimes. Yes, I could put it all over the place, and people will still send me stuff. I'm really curious of when things start to open back up with the XFL. I'm already getting messages, but I have a feeling get more. I mean, I even put it on my Contacts Us page. I'm like, I'm not affiliated with the XFL. We're an XFL news site. Do not email me. I will not respond to you. And people would still, I mean, it's in bold letters, and people would still send it. Still drying those tears, Mark, because I thought MJF should have won. That was a good match. He was talking about our other podcast, AEW, the AEW Week in Review. Shocker, very creative I am. XFL Week in Review, AEW Week in Review, Your Mom Week in Review. Oh, yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But you get the drift. Yeah, I'm upset MJF didn't do it. I'm telling you, AEW, it's so funny. As XFL is like basically going off the radar and not really sure what I'm doing, and I'm focusing on AEW, ProWrestlingNewsHub.com. Focusing on that, and then all of a sudden, AEW starts taking off. In the last couple of months, they had over 1 million viewers. I mean, they are getting viewers. I mean, they got 45 million for Saturday 2-hour episode. Getting, you know, I think it's 45 million a year. 40, I forget what the number is. 45 million over a couple years, 3 years or something. You're telling me XFL can't get that? And XFL was doing better numbers. On like FS1, they were getting like almost 1 million viewers on a Saturday night. So come on. XFL, if AEW Dynamite is a viable TV show, then so the heck is XFL without question. Without question. Another one we haven't heard from a long time, Nicholas checking in. I know last year the XFL, oh, and by the way, thank you, Jamal, as always, checking in. Tier 1 emailer. And of course, our other, really the true Tier 1, the PJ Walker. Originally, he would have been Landry Jones, but Landry could have had a good season. We don't know. I hope Landry comes back. I really want to see if he could do it. He said, I know last year the XFL had talked about a tiered salary system, but then went away from it, I think because the AAF went away, and then they didn't need to do that. In a way, I would love for the XFL to go back to it to persuade better talent to enter the league. The XFL also needs to do what it takes to keep its game on Fox. I agree with that. I think if anybody, Fox is the one that they had the best relationship with. And if they were to lose anybody, I'm not a fan of ESPN, so Fox would be a good spot. They have a relationship with SmackDown, though that's, they're not getting the ratings in the billions that they paid for it. Last year, to me, they broadcast the games the best, and they will give the league the most access. I agree with that. As far as the salary stuff goes, here's the problem. Number one, they're not Vince McMahon with $1.7 billion in the bank. They also, the CFL is really becoming not an option. We've heard really just how terrible, and I don't think the CFL is run very well, but how terrible their finances is. And they keep losing money year after year. Now they shut the season down for a year. That's going to hurt. I mean, it hurt the NFL. I mean, this whole thing kind of hurt the NFL. I mean, their ratings were not that great. I mean, they're still dominant over anything else. But compared to what they were a year ago, how's the CFL going to work out if they didn't play for a full season? I said last week I mentioned that leaving LA, but I also recommended them leaving Tampa as well. They need, but fan turnout and the places I would replace LA with is Oakland, San Diego, and a place that might shock some, Sacramento. Interesting. The places I would replace Tampa is with Orlando, no question. Lastly, the main thing they have to fix is quarterback play and offensive line play. Besides Philip Walker and Jordan Ta'amu, all the other quarterbacks were shaky. Cardell started off great and cooled off. Josh Johnson started off shaky but got better. I think Josh Johnson would have been the MVP if they played a full season. He was really starting to come on, and he had been injured a little bit, and he came in a little bit late. I think the two of them would have went at it in a championship game. It would have been so much fun. After Shaky Sub got better as the year went on, long-term success, they have to address these issues. They will. They'll take care of it. All right, thanks for the social media stuff, as always, my friends. All right, that's it for this week's show. Next week, we got some more player interviews. We got some other things we're working on the horizon. Hopefully, we get some more XFL news coming from the official Alpha Aquico. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. They bring down some news. We now have XFL employees getting XFL paychecks. Maybe we'll get some XFL news. So if you want to be part of the show, email podcast@XFL News Hub or call 888-430-7692 extension 3. Again, we'd like to thank all of our T1 emailers out there. We appreciate all of them. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're everywhere. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. We're almost getting to 2,000 subscribers. We'd really like to do that soon. We're very close. I think we're like 10 away. So be one of those people to get us to 2,000. That would be a nice little accomplishment for us. Get our Android and iPhone app and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. We'd like to thank Paul M.L. Jackson 9, whatever it was. Appreciate the 5 stars. And that's it for this week's show. Remember, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. For show notes, join us on the Discord. That's it for this week's show. Hopefully we get more fun next week. I think we got some interviews lined up, so it will be a lot of fun, a lot of interesting stuff for next week. Thanks for listening. Mahalo. Wear your mask. God bless. And I will see you all later.